My name's Nina. I'm 28 years old. And 3 months ago, they took my 5-year-old daughter, Olivia, away from me. All because of the lies spread by my mother-in-law, Violet, the so-called respected executive assistant to the business tycoon Henry Morris. The judge had made his ruling, and Violet celebrated that tragic day at the courthouse. Full custody went to John. To them, it was obvious a waitress like me couldn't raise a child properly. I stood there helpless, watching little Olivia cry as they took her away. My ex-husband, John, didn't even look my way, too busy grinning next to his new girlfriend, a doctor his mother had picked out for him. "Mama, I don't want to go," Olivia whimpered, reaching her tiny arms toward me. "It's for your own good, sweetheart," Violet cut in, pulling her away. "Your mom needs to get her life together." What Violet didn't know was that my waitressing job was just temporary. For months, I'd been digging, searching for answers about my real father, and my search led me straight to his boss, Henry Morris. #the discovery. It all began 6 months ago when I found an old letter while cleaning out my late mother's apartment. The letter revealed that the man who raised me wasn't my biological dad. Henry Morris was the man my mother had been involved with years before I was born. "Your father never knew you existed," the letter said. "I left when I found out I was pregnant. I was young, scared, and he was engaged to someone else. But I kept every piece of proof just in case." Tucked inside that letter were photos, love notes, and most importantly, secret DNA test results my mother had arranged years before. I took a job as a waitress at the Morris Plaza Hotel's restaurant, right where Henry often ate lunch, just so I could be near him. Watch him, try to understand the man who was my father without him ever knowing. One day while serving VIP guests in the executive dining room, my supervisor snapped at me. "Watch yourself." "Sorry," I muttered. But every time I saw Henry, I noticed more and more. Same eyes, same smile, even the way he rubbed his chin when he was thinking. Violet often came with him, always looking down on me with that special kind of disdain reserved for wait staff. The irony that she was sneering at her boss's own daughter gave me a strange kind of strength. #Violet schemes. "One of your friends is here to see you," Rachel, a fellow waitress, called out one afternoon. "Your ex-mother-in-law wants to talk to the manager. She says you treated her badly." Just another one of Violet's schemes to make my life miserable. Since John and I divorced a year ago, Violet had been tearing down every part of my world. "They can't fire you over this," Rachel said, reassuring me as I headed to the manager's office. "You're the best waitress we have." But Violet was powerful at the hotel. As Henry's executive assistant, her word carried weight. "I'm sorry, Nina," the manager said with genuine regret. "Mrs. Vanderbilt insists you be reassigned to the kitchen." I didn't argue. I needed this job. I had to stay close to Henry because in 3 days, when I turned 29, I planned to tell him the truth. What I didn't expect was that Violet would use this against me. "Look," she said at the next custody hearing. "She can't even hold down a waitressing job. How can she raise a child?" The judge, swayed by Violet's respectable witnesses, ruled in her favor. Full custody to John with supervised visits for me once I got my life in order. #a call that changed everything. That night, crying alone in my small apartment, my phone rang. "Nina Thornton?" A familiar voice asked. "Yes, this is Lucy, Henry Morris's wife. I need to talk to you urgently." My heart stopped. I'd found the truth. "It's about your mother, Emily Thornton. She worked for us years ago, and there's something you need to know." We agreed to meet the next day at a quiet cafe. What I didn't know was that meeting would change everything. As I got ready for bed, I looked at the last photo I had of Olivia taken on her last day of preschool. "Soon, my love," I whispered. "Mom's going to fix everything." My phone buzzed. A message from Violet. "Hope you're happy in the kitchen. That's where you belong." I smiled softly. If only she knew the person she despised was actually the daughter of her boss, the rightful heir to the Morris empire. But she'd find out soon. Everyone would. The countdown had begun. Hashtag the meeting with Lucy. The cafe Lucy picked was in a quiet neighborhood, away from the Morris family's watchful eyes. I arrived early, clutching the envelope of documents my mom had left me, nerves twisting inside. Lucy Morris was an elegant woman in her 50s, her presence both commanding and warm. "Nina," she greeted me with a smile that caught me off guard. "Thanks for meeting with me." We ordered coffee. Then she pulled out an envelope like mine. "I guess you're wondering why I called." A week ago, while sorting through old files, I found this. She showed me a photograph. There was my young, radiant mother standing next to Henry Morris at what looked like a company party. "Your mother was more than just an employee to Henry," she said quietly. "I know," I whispered. "I always knew." My hands trembled as I held my coffee. "Emily told me everything about their relationship, about you, before she quit." "But why didn't you say anything?" I asked. Lucy sighed. "Henry was devastated when Emily disappeared. I was pregnant with our first child then, and she promised she'd stay away to keep the peace." "My father knows about me?" "No, Emily made me promise not to tell him. But now that she's gone and after seeing what Violet's done to you..." I blinked, surprised. "You know about that?" "Of course. Violet can't stop bragging about putting a waitress in her place. It's unbearable." My phone buzzed. Rachel's message. "Violet's here. She's telling everyone she's about to be promoted to Human Resources Director." Lucy caught my look. "Yes, Violet's been manipulating Henry to get that position. What she doesn't know is that I own 51% of the company's shares." She showed me emails, financial reports, proof of Violet's power plays. "I've been gathering evidence for months," Lucy said. "But I needed something solid to convince Henry." "Why tell me this?" "Tomorrow's the annual shareholders meeting. Violet's running for director. It's the perfect moment for the truth to come out." My heart pounded. This was my chance. The truth about who I was. Violet's lies. How she stole my daughter. Another message popped up. This time, a photo of Violet and John taking Olivia somewhere. "We're sending her to a boarding school," the message read. "That way, you won't have to worry about supervised visits." Tears blurred my vision. "The Palmer boarding school," Lucy said. I nodded. "It's owned by the company. One word from me, and they won't admit her." "Will you help me?" "Not just help," I said firmly. "We'll get my daughter back and put Violet in her place." Hashtag the plan. We spent hours planning that night. Lucy had everything. Proof of Violet's abuse, manipulation, even evidence that she'd improperly influenced the judge during my custody battle. "The meeting's tomorrow at 10 a.m., Lucy said as we parted ways. Violet invited her whole family to show off her promotion. She even convinced Henry to let John present one of the financial reports. "I'll be there," I said, "even if Violet demoted me to the kitchen." Lucy smiled. "Oh, don't worry about that. Since you're the wife of the owner, I made sure you're the lead waitress at the meeting." That night, while laying out my uniform, I got one last photo of Olivia crying outside her boarding school. Violet's message came through. "Last chance. Give up your visitation rights, and I'll let you send her Christmas cards." I looked over the documents on my table, the DNA tests, letters, photos, all the evidence Lucy had gathered. Tomorrow, Violet would learn she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, underestimating one determined waitress. "Soon, my love," I whispered to Olivia's photo. "Mom's going to fix everything." The next day didn't just change my life. It put everyone exactly where they belonged. And Violet, she was about to serve her last cup of poison. Hashtag the shareholders meeting. By 9:45 a.m., the Morris Plaza Hotel conference room was packed. Violet strutted in her new suit, shaking hands with executives and bragging about her upcoming promotion. "Where's that incompetent waitress?" I heard Violet whisper to her assistant. "I specifically requested she not serve today." I'm sorry, ma'am, the manager replied, but Lucy insisted. I rolled in my service cart carrying coffee, pastries, and an envelope packed with documents that would change everything. You, Violet hissed. How dare you? Good morning, Mrs. Vanderbilt, I said calmly. At that moment, Henry and Lucy Morris entered. Violet instantly plastered on a fake smile. Mr. Morris, I was just reviewing my presentation for the new position, Violet said. Henry nodded distractedly, but I caught Lucy winking at me as they took their seats. John showed up shortly after, holding his girlfriend's hand. His doctor girlfriend froze when she saw me. What's she doing here? He whispered to his mother. Don't worry, Violet said loud enough for me to hear. I'll deal with her after the meeting. The meeting started right at 10 a.m. As I served coffee, I only half listened to the reports. And now, the secretary announced Mrs. Violet Vanderbilt will present her candidacy for Human Resources Director. Violet stood beaming. Thank you all. As you know, I have faithfully served this company for 15 years. Excuse me, Lucy interrupted gently. Before we continue, there's a family matter to address. Violet blinked, confused. Family? Yes, Lucy smiled. Henry, darling. Do you remember Emily Thornton? My father's face changed when he heard my mother's name. Of course, he said quietly. She was one of our best employees. She disappeared 29 years ago. 29 years and 9 months to be exact, Lucy added, looking at me knowingly. Violet, sensing something was wrong, tried to regain control. Excuse me, but this is my presentation. Violet, Lucy interrupted. Nina? Dear, would you please come forward? I left my cart and walked to the front of the room. Henry looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. Those eyes, he murmured. The same as yours, darling, Lucy said softly. Emily left because she was pregnant. With your daughter. ## the truth revealed. The silence was deafening. Violet looked like she was about to faint. What are you saying? Henry stammered. I pulled out the documents from my envelope. My mother left these before she died. DNA tests, letters, photos, everything. Henry took the documents with trembling hands. Tears welled in his eyes as he recognized my mother's handwriting. Why didn't you tell me? He whispered. Because you were engaged, I answered softly. I didn't want to complicate your life. Violet tried to speak up. This is ridiculous. It's obviously a scheme by this waitress to get money. How dare you? Violet snapped. Lucy stepped forward, projecting documents on the screen. Do you want to talk about schemes? How you manipulated information to benefit yourself, or how you used your position to influence a custody case? John went pale. Mom, what is she talking about? You didn't know, Lucy continued. Your mother falsified reports to make Nina look like an unfit mom. She even bribed the family judge. That's a lie, Violet shouted. We have proof, I said, handing over emails where Violet planned to send Olivia to boarding school without my consent. Henry, who had been silently reading my mother's letters, finally spoke. All this time I had a daughter, and you? He glared at Violet. You've been tormenting her. Mr. Morris, may I explain? Explain? Lucy snapped. Explain how you abused your power to ruin your boss's daughter's life? How you plan to use your new position to keep manipulating things in your favor? Violet slumped in her chair. John looked stunned. Custody? He murmured. Mom, did you manipulate the custody case? Of course she did, I said. Have you ever wondered why the judge ignored all the positive reports from Olivia's school? Why he dismissed her teacher's testimony about how well she was cared for? ## justice served. Henry stood up. As president of this company, I demand Violet Vanderbilt's immediate resignation. And as a father, I want to meet my granddaughter. Violet made one last desperate plea. You can't do this to me. I've dedicated my life to this company. And you use that position to ruin other people's lives, Lucy replied. The police are waiting outside to talk to you about bribing the judge. 2 officers entered and escorted Violet out, sobbing and shouting threats. John came over. Nina, I had no idea. Mom told me you were negligent. Save it, I cut him off. A good father would have looked into it himself instead of blindly trusting his mother's lies. Henry approached hesitantly. Nina, I know it's late, but… I looked into his eyes and saw the same pain and regret I felt. It's never too late to be family, I said softly. #, reunion. 3 hours later, I was at Palmer boarding school with Henry and Lucy by my side. When Olivia saw me, she ran into my arms, shouting, "Mommy." I held her tight, tears streaming down my face. I told you Mommy would fix everything. Who are they? Olivia asked, looking curiously at Henry and Lucy. They're your grandparents, sweetheart, I said. And they have a lot of love to make up for. #, new beginnings. In the weeks that followed, my life changed completely. The custody case was reopened, and with proof of Violet's manipulation, I was granted full custody. Violet was charged with bribery and document forgery. John, ashamed of his role, agreed to a reasonable visitation schedule. Henry and Lucy helped me move into a beautiful apartment nearby, and I started working at the company in an executive role. But the most important thing was seeing Olivia thrive, loved not just by me, but by grandparents determined to make up for lost time. One afternoon, while having coffee in the office that was once Violet's domain, Lucy smiled at me. You know, Violet always said you were just a waitress. But it turns out you're much more. You're a mother fighting for her daughter, a daughter finding her way home, and proof that love and truth always win. I looked out the window where Olivia was playing in the hotel garden with Henry. And sometimes, I said, the best revenge isn't serving coffee, it's serving justice. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, like the video and subscribe to our channel. This is Revenge Scales, where justice always finds its way. See you next time. *.